Good evening, everyone, and thank you for those who came in person tonight. We welcome you and appreciate you being here, and we welcome everybody that's online and appreciate you tuning in that way as well. We have a good agenda of different items tonight, and we'll go ahead and begin. I'll call to order, and I'll read our ethics statement, which states, board members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. Pat, would you do our invocation, please?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessing of this beautiful day. The color of the leaves and the majesty of your creation reminds us of your power and your kindness and your love. And we're so thankful that we're able to live in such a beautiful place that you've created. I ask that you would be with us in our meeting tonight, that you would guide our thoughts and our actions and help us to glorify you in all that we do and say, because our hope is in you, Lord, and we know that you direct all things and you make all things work. And we thank you for your faithfulness. For us in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pat. We'll stand for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could I have a motion for approval of tonight's open and closed agendas?
I make one.
Thank you, Ruth. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jane. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And could I have a motion for approval of the July 27th, 2020 open and closed minutes, the August 11th, 2020 open and closed minutes, and September 1st, 2020 open and closed minutes?
Also move.
Thank you, Pat. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Any of those? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Brickman, will you deliver your superintendent's report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Our 4x1 schedule has been going extremely well. Principals and teachers are utilizing Wednesdays for IEP meetings, PLCs, parent conferences, student support, and deep cleaning of all spaces. Students are receiving instruction in accordance with our remote learning plan. Teachers have designated office hours that they've communicated to our families. Remote Wednesdays have allowed us to put processes and practices in place as we prepare for the winter season ahead and school being impacted by the upcoming inclement weather. Mr. Ayers will be providing more details in a few minutes regarding remote learning in Avery County, and I look forward to his presentation as well. An AVA update. We do have the Avery Virtual Academy well underway. Our virtual academy is totally separate from remote learning, as you all are aware. AVA is going well with several issues addressed to improve teaching and learning for our AVA staff and students. Although we have seen several students desiring to return to in-class instruction, our population enrolled in AVA continues to remain stable with the assigned staff remaining in place for the remainder of this semester. Students going back to face-to-face breaks down as follows. The elementary school had 27 requests to return to in-class instruction. The middle school at Avery Middle School has 17, and Cranberry Middle School has 12. Students staying in AVA, elementary schools remaining with 100 enrolled. The middle school from Avery Middle School is 42 and Cranberry 44. And we still have 155 students enrolled in the high school AVA platform. So that's a brief AVA update. We didn't see a landslide of kids that we anticipated would come back to in-class. So something's going well with AVA. October birthdays include Ms. Aldridge, and I think October 22nd is your special day, so we wish you a happy birthday in advance. And it is 30, right? Happy birthday.
I'll take it.
All right. Today is the 41st day of instruction, 4 days of school remaining until the end of the first grading period, 30 days until Thanksgiving break, 45 school days of instruction remaining in the first semester And Christmas break is just right around the corner, and they'll be cutting Christmas trees very soon in Avery County. So that concludes the superintendent's update, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Stephanie, do we have anybody for public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to our discussion agenda and Leadership for Innovation, the Avery County High School Student Services presentation. Allison Phillips, Jay Smith, Dwayne Craig, and Ricky Ward. Ricky, thank you for bringing your staff here.
Thank you all for inviting us. We look forward to this opportunity to share sort of what is going on at the high school, what we have accomplished and where we're going. When Dr. Brigman and I talked about when I come into Avery High School, and he said, "What's your biggest concerns?" I said, "Student services," because I truly see this as the heartbeat of our school and for our students, because so many different aspects of education go through it, anywhere from social emotional to college and career preparation, as well as just enrolling for classes, which is a huge thing. And just so you all know, and the part that was very overwhelming for me in a lot of ways was just all the platforms that we're utilizing. Not only do we have students that, of course, are taking our classes, but we have dual enrollment classes with Mayland, and that's on campus, online, and on their campuses as well. We have AP courses. We have North Carolina Virtual Public School courses. We have North Carolina Science and Math. There's a lot of things that they're juggling and that they're making sure that students have access to and that it's appropriate for them. So just can't brag on them enough, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to them and they can tell you kind of what they're doing.
Thank y'all for having us. We're going to talk a little bit about what our plan of action is, some areas that we're super great in, some areas we want to improve, and how we're going to move forward. Obviously, the team, myself, Jason, Dwayne Cranky, we are working to kind of improve some areas of advisement and registration for all of our students, scholarships, and then we're going to talk a little bit about our Appalachian College advising coach person, Callie Presley, and how awesome she's doing with all of our seniors. Alright, so our number one goal is to build relationships with the kids at Avery County High School. Coming in knowing a lot of them from middle school, that's helped me tremendously, but getting to know all the ones that I had a long time ago as a middle school counselor, and then getting to know all of our students from Cranberry and the new students that we've gotten this year. We've got a lot of new students, so building relationships with them and their families is our number one goal moving forward, just to get to know them and to be able to better serve them. Advisement as a huge piece, as Mr. Ward said. We want to make sure that our students are taking classes that not only that they need to graduate and that fulfill our local requirements, but that are important to them and that will help them move forward in whatever career path that they choose after high school. We want to improve areas with our freshmen using Major Clarity as a platform and a tool to use in improving our advisement process. We want to make sure that they are diving into career paths and interest inventories so that they can do a lot more career exploration. And then we want to plug them in socially. It's hard to make new friends in a mask when you can't go anywhere during the day. So we've got to make sure that our kids are having opportunities outside of school to spend time with each other and to get to know all the cool things that Avery High School has to offer, all of our clubs and activities. We want to do different things with each grade level. With sophomores, we want to increase job shadowing. We want to make sure that they understand the dual enrollment pathways that are preparing to take as juniors and seniors. And we want to put them in a good light so they can move forward well academically as a junior and a senior. As juniors, we want to talk about their Mayland pathways. We want to increase their ACT scores, and we want to help them understand the difference between dual enrollment and advanced placement courses. The other thing we want to do is increase community involvement with all of our students. With seniors, we want to make sure that they are on track to graduate and that they're prepared for whatever school or workforce post-secondary that they want to go into. So just some things about Major Clarity. It creates a one-on-one environment where we are going to meet with every single freshman student. We're going to start working with them to build their resume, to put together their 4-year plan so that they know what classes that they need to take in sequence. College and Career Promise has changed the way that we do dual enrollment. It has kind of restructured the way that we register kids and the classes that are available for our kids. So we want to make sure that our parents understand that our students understand that. So when we tell them that they can't take psychology this year because of their pathway, they understand why. And so advocating a little bit earlier and explaining that earlier in the sophomore year will help us do that as juniors and seniors. We have 18% of our student population are taking AP courses, so that's awesome. That gives them opportunity to earn college credit, and it's a higher level class for them. Lots of our students take advantage of that. We have 39% of our students who are enrolled in a dual enrollment class. So that might be welding, it might be psychology, it might be a history class. Our students are really taking advantage of all that Mainland has to offer. And this leads us into our next thing, which is career development. So we want to make sure that our students are prepared and future ready, and they can go into whatever career that they so choose. Jay's our scholarship coordinator, so you can touch on scholarships.
Thanks for the opportunity to be here and speak with you guys. We just want to make the community aware and kids aware that there are lots of scholarships available for them. There's some dates and different levels of scholarships that will be available. Some that we have already made recommendations to schools for, others that are coming soon. We have lots of opportunities in this community to get money for kids to go to school. So we're going to work on making sure they're aware of that and helping them through the application process.
So a couple things we want to do in order to help our kids with scholarships is we want to make them competitive in our merit-based scholarships. We want to help them be able to write their essays better. We want to help them have community service hours and log those community service hours so that they can advocate why that they're passionate about certain things. We want to increase our local scholarship participation. We want to let our parents know about the money that's available to them if their students will just apply. We want to make that application process easier as well. The other thing that we want to do is help all of our teachers become advocates for students within their classrooms to go and apply for scholarships, whether that be merit-based or local, and help them be a resource for our kids when they're writing essays and things like that moving forward. Callie is our Appalachian College Advising Corps individual, and she is doing awesome. Callie has met with 55% of our senior class, that's over 80 students. I think she told me by the end of the day it would be like 81 or 82. She met with 34% of parents. She has assisted 66 people with their FAFSA, and 25% of our kids have already applied to at least one college, and that's huge. College application week is coming up on the 15th through the 30th. That's 2 weeks where our kids can apply to over 40 schools for free. So we are definitely encouraging all of our seniors to go ahead and do that. She has had over 500 one-to-one interactions, and she's leading all of her fellow college advising corps individuals in that area, so she's pretty proud about that. Some things that she wants to do and that we want to improve on as a team is we want at least 58% of our kids submitting at least one application, whether that's to Mainland, Caldwell, or our major universities. The other thing we want to do is that at least 20% of that population apply to at least 3 schools, so that they can have a broader base of schools that they want to get into. We want to increase our FAFSA numbers. In 2019, 61% of our families applied for FAFSA. In 2020, we want to make that number 70%. So we're trying to do that through the FAFSA nights. We're providing dinner. The College Foundation, our community foundation, has tremendously helped with that by providing food for our families, and that's been a huge blessing. It's also been great to meet with our families, to get to put a name with a face and everything like that. And then we want to help students find the right school or career path that's right for them. So whether that's a 4-year school, a 2-year school, a trade school, we want to make sure that they're on the right path so they can be successful. If y'all have any questions, thank you for letting us be here.
Thank you. Thank
Excellent
you.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you guys do.
Did anybody? Next, we'll move to our remote learning update. Ellis Ayers is here to do that for us. Welcome, Ellis.
Thank you for having me. As Dr. Brinkman was doing some, talking a little bit about how remote learning is going thus far, we've had a super successful about 8 weeks of school thus far. Wanted to start out just with a brief quote. The road not taken. We are on a road not taken by most school systems. Just the very end of this poem says that I shall be telling this with a sigh somewhere ages hence. 2 roads diverge in the wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. We took a hard road at the very beginning of the year, but it's been a road that has been worthwhile. When most schools across the state, 70% of students at the very beginning of the school started on remote learning. 100% of school systems that encompass 70% of the schools across the state, they were home. We started day one, not going on an A day, B day, but going 4 days a week. That is not a traveled road that other districts have been on. Well, where did that get us? Well, we started out by having a common template for how our remote learning was going to be incorporated in our 4x1 schedule. We also created, from July until present, basically another school that encompassed almost 25%, 24% of our students that had some shared teaching responsibilities. And what did it result in? We have more face-to-face instruction than anybody else in the high country, and I can't find a school system that had as much as we did either statewide. So that's where we are 8 weeks into school. Well, I wanted to go back and give you just a little bit of an update as to, this is some of the elements of from our common template for training, and to give you a couple of examples as to what that is looking like. Dr. Brigman mentioned in terms of what exactly is taking place on those Wednesdays on the remote learning piece. The fact that we do have PLCs, we've got professional development. The things that are taking place on Wednesdays are helping Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday take place with that face-to-face instruction. We also said within our remote learning that we made sure that we would have I can statements, we needed rubrics, we defined instructional time, and we also wanted teachers to make sure that they're preloading content for later in the week to take advantage of the time when you are face-to-face. How is the teacher's time going to best be served, and how is the student's time going to best be served? And so they really changed that instructional model for the one-off days. We've got a couple of examples here in terms of what this looks like. This is Anna Gerald's classroom, 4th grade teacher over at Crossmore. And so when you look over to Miss Gerald's classroom, you want to say, okay, what am I going to do? They hop into their daily portal. They can come down to their daily assignment, and if it happens to be a Wednesday, they go and select the Wednesday, and a typical Wednesday assignment at DLA, because we also have a math teacher in that class, they're going to be reading for 30 minutes. They're going to be working on vocabulary practice. There's also a Scholastic News article that they're going to be working on, as well as a worksheet. And then also doing some practice, and there's a checkout form that takes place once they're done. Each of these things are front-loaded as part of the classroom, and then they're back-loaded on Thursday and Friday when they come back. Another example, and I'm just going to show just a little bit of this. This is from Kim Wiseman. And I don't know that the sound is going to work, but let's see. Sound going to come good on that. She actually narrated her Power School Learning page.
Back to the Power School page. They would click over on the left side on Remote Wednesday, and each week I only have one day open at a time. So we're going to look right here at Remote Wednesday for October 7th. They would click on that, and the directions are all here. The first thing here would be what you need to do today. They're going to follow along with video and do the left side of the worksheet the teacher gave you. And this week we're doing a review. After they complete the left side this week, they're going to enter some answers for a little quiz on haiku. Basically, we do the same thing each week. They do a worksheet following along with the video as guided practice. And I'll show you right here in a second my video. Kids who do not For students who do not have access to internet at home, I airdrop a video to them each week so that they can open that in their photos without needing Wi-Fi. So here would be the video. If I can get it to play on here. Okay, there we go. Here's the video. And the video has sound. Okay, this is going to be your
So this is the video of the video that she's posted.
What we're going to do is I'm going to talk to you with everything on the left side of this set. And then on the page, we're going to do this side of the page. And this side is what you click on the page. You're going to hear the answers to these and how to do it.
So I'm going to show you a couple of other examples as well. Over here on this left-hand side, this is Levin Southers, one of his assignments, 8th grade social studies over at Cranberry. Downloading a PDF of an original source document. You can see the ICANN statements included within that, and the assignment that would be assigned and due through PowerSchool Learning. An example from an English 2 class. It's a little bit small over there on the screen, but basically you can see over here there's a daily assignment that comes through day by day that you can click on. Once it gets to the Wednesday, there's a specific assignment. This is a writing opportunity. Lots of different types of activities are taking place. What I can say from kind of an outside perspective, our PowerSchool Learning usage has gone up tremendously, and the organization that's had to take place. I was talking with Mr. Reef earlier, who stepped out. When you get thrown into the deep end of the pool, you gotta swim. And our teachers have worked incredibly hard to try to adjust to these new environments that kids have been really find themselves in, especially with the Wednesdays. The last thing I did want to mention, I've got an addition here. This is from Jenny Townsend, who is an 8th grade teacher at Cranberry. Oh, I'll get one of those. As you all know, we had an issue at Avery Middle School last week in which, on a very quick instance, we went from having a one-day remote to a remote situation from Thursday until the following Thursday. So we went from a one-off to a week. So within just a few hours after finding out that was going to take place, this was posted on Facebook with the new schedule. And parents were begun to be contacted as to what the new schedule was going to be, because the learning context changed. There's a difference between an everyday Wednesday versus a 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 extended day type of situation for remote learning. So Jenny actually had a response here, just because I'd asked the principals, and you found some of the information in the packets. How is remote learning going in your building? What's working? How's the time being spent? That's the information that you got in your packet. But Jenny's letter here is pretty powerful. That second paragraph says that the press release came out at 3:15 on Wednesday. By 4 o'clock, their team had already met, put a plan together. By early Thursday morning, all but 65 8th graders knew their plans and were ready to Zoom by 9. Daily Zooms had 45 to 50 kids enrolled and involved. So lots and lots of good stuff. It's a work in progress. We're better this week than we were 3 weeks ago. I think we'll be better when the snow starts flying in February or November or whenever it starts flying. I think that we're going to be better then too. But it's our teachers I can't say enough good things about how hard they're working and putting things together, so.
I have a question. Just like the two examples you gave, what if a kid doesn't have the internet access or a device to download something onto? What do they do at home on a remote day?
They're getting packets the day before. So on that Tuesday, they're getting the packets. Now the 6 through 12, they've got the device, and so they can download the PDFs. Elementaries are very packet heavy in terms of those going out on Tuesdays.
With this temporary shutdown though, this one specific grade level, we've made those packets available, I think, on Thursday of last week. And we're giving them access to them at the school, and if they can't get them at the school, we're putting them on the bus, I think.
Correct.
And giving them hard copy packets.
So how would that have worked if it, instead of it being shut down for whatever the reason, that it had been shut down for weather? How we wouldn't be running the buses and we wouldn't be on the roads? I guess, how are we gonna consider a day of instruction for a snow day, I guess?
That's like the snow packets that we had prior to COVID. There's gonna be pre-made packets, and we'll watch weather, and if we anticipate snow, hopefully we'll have some planning time to get that hard packet in the kids' hands. But we will have situations where we're caught by surprise, maybe like on a Sunday, and we'll just have to hold kids harmless if they do not have access to the remote days.
And within our plan, students have extra time to make up that work. One of the things that is within our plan is that attendance is not based on what you did on that given day. You've actually got 2 days after we return to school, such that teachers can work out plans. If the student did not have access to the information, then they can go to the teacher once they return and say, help me out here. How can I go and make this up and still work to be counted as in present?
So our remote plan that we approved early on called for us to be this packet heavy, this paper heavy?
In elementary, yes,
Okay.
because we didn't have the devices, yes.
Well, I'm gonna ask that now. We do have the devices now. And I wanna say that, you know, we had questions about the remote plan, not at all that we didn't think teachers were doing it.
Right.
I kinda got bothered that when we asked about it, that teachers thought we didn't trust them.
Right.
And there was that perception. And that bothered me, Alice, and I'm gonna tell you that. And it wasn't that at all. Our teachers do a phenomenal job. And I can't say enough about Avery Middle's 8th grade and how they turned that in about an hour and a half.
Absolutely.
And so that shows you that they knew what they were doing even before. So they were doing a bang up job on Wednesdays, or they couldn't have done that. So we have devices. And as I've visited schools and I've talked to teachers, I think it's time to say, we've got those devices, and I think it's time to say, let's let elementary take them home. Our AV kids take them home. They've got them home. We never lay eyes on those kids, and we trust them. I think it's time to start on these Wednesdays to practice Tuesday night, taking those home and letting those kids practice with those devices. These teachers are doing some phenomenal things, and these kids can use these devices, many of them better than we can. The state provided those devices to us. We have insurance on those devices, if I'm not mistaken, and these teachers are doing great things, and these kids could use those devices. They don't have to be packet heavy. If we know Friday afternoon that they're calling for some snow that coming the next week, we can get those devices in that kid's hand, and so we don't have to do those packets. So especially at grades 3, 4, 5, let's start to take those devices home. I think it's time to do that, because the teachers are doing wonderful things.
And also with having a device, I would think that doing flipped instruction where you're actually front loading, letting them learn new things at home, and they need to be able to look over that information more than one time, maybe alone or with parents or whatever, so they can do it. But you know, I feel for students who have to work paper packets. I
I
think
do too.
that's just the most boring way to learn that I can think of.
And I can think of math, especially. If they can, those teachers can record that math and those teachers doing that math, that will help those parents. You know, our teachers are just doing such amazing things. And it's never about them not working hard. And I get very upset when there's communication that the board thinks they're not. And I'm gonna speak for every one of these people here. Don't ever let that be said that we think they're not. They work hard. Not just Wednesdays. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and Sunday. And I think these kids need to take these devices home.
Ellis, I have a crazy question. If we can get those computers sent home with those elementary children, could we not download or have packets that are set up for snow days with review for them, just so they would have work that was available if we had a snow day?
Yes, yes.
So
Downloaded PDFs or apps.
Right.
We still have to make sure that it's files.
Right.
And not
right.
necessarily internet dependent.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
So that way, we're not worrying about on Friday evenings whether or not it might snow on Monday. They've already got packets download, or not packets, but work downloaded on their computer that they've come to, then we know we've already done our job.
I
And
agree.
it's
One
not
of the things, and we began actually talking a little bit about that. We brought that up at cabinet on Monday. And I was talking with Mr. Reed just a few minutes ago. One of the pieces to look at is sending them home is great. What happens when they don't come back? Or if they don't come back, and that's an issue that we just got to work through, but I don't think that's a barrier.
Yeah, and I think that that's where you can use some of these Tuesdays as a trial. Okay, I think that, again, you wouldn't send them home every night right now, but you could use that Tuesdays as a trial basis. Let's see how they do on a Tuesday night. Okay? And again, I'm not saying that every night. But that's the one thing as I talk to teachers, they said especially at the 3, 4, 5, and K2, you know, kindergarten teachers are a little bit different. They're a little bit leery, of course, and even first grade teachers. But especially at the 3, 4, 5 level is where they're saying that. But I think that's where you can start using this Tuesday nights as a practice run. You know, let's just practice this on this Wednesday. Do they get those guys back? And I know it's always been said, well, they're on the buses. I'm pretty amazed how many car riders these schools have at elementary level. I'm in the Carolina.
Oh, it's been tremendous. In fact, we've not had the busing issues we thought we were going to have.
I'm in the
terms of how
Carolina
packed they were.
every afternoon or mornings at Crosshorn. There's a lot of kids on the car line.
Well, and do you know how many kids have got the little things where you play games? They're not gonna lose them computers.
And
That's like a cell phone to a teenager.
Yeah, and you guys, the tech people have done a good job of making sure that those things are ready. And they're real good about giving advice and how to put those things. And they're real good about getting back again to the kids if there's a problem there. I just would like to ask this question. How has the middle schools adjusted to the iPads? That's just, you know, as opposed to the MacBooks.
I think it's been like any new technology, it's a little bit different, but I think that I'd have to talk specifically with the admins and teachers, but I think that they're finding different types of functionalities, just like Ms. Wiseman was showing there on the screen. There's some things to do differently. When I was talking with David Reap earlier, he said what a difference a few weeks makes. The phone calls that for basic tech support, how do you turn this on? How do you operate this? Those things have settled in. I think it's just been a time element to get our folks a little more used to it. But I think overall it's going quite well.
We can look at the 3.5 and we'll do an acceptable use revision too with the parents' support to make sure that the devices are protected. But I think timing is of essence with everything else we've got underway and behind us now, so we could actually look at that and try to put computers in their hands to let them take them home.
I do think we just have to commend the teachers and principals and everybody that's come up with some ideas during this difficult time.
The best practices are leveraged to much more acceptable practices now, just every day. I mean, it's really amazing how much more connected our teachers are, not only to each other, they're communicating with parents so much more than what we ever did before. A lot of those barriers have been taken down. There's still work to do, but the amount of communication is much higher now than it was 6 months ago.
What kind of staff development do you have planned for teachers to help them continue to develop lessons that are engaging and, since if they're gonna be sending these things home, that it's not just more, I know you gave some good examples, but I don't know if are all teachers doing that level of work that you've showed us, or is that just some of the exceptional ones that examples?
It varies. David Reed has Tommy Deaton and Nancy Carver set up on a schedule now. They're going to different schools on Wednesdays, in which they are going through, part of it is doing whole group. Then there's also some time in which individual teachers make separate appointments in terms of what different things they would like to learn more about in terms of particular programs. But I think that it's set up about every 3 weeks. They're getting, the elementaries are getting either Nancy or Tommy coming in. Middle schools, Joelle Poor runs ongoing sessions with middle school folks. Lincoln Masters has sessions set up over at Avery Middle School. And then Sam Phillips up at the high school also has support pieces that are set up.
That's more of a technical support. What about?
No, they're instructional support.
They're doing lesson planning with them and things?
They're doing tips and tricks and programs to go and use. Yes, it's not just how do you, but my MacBook doesn't work. No, it's definitely instructional.
Okay.
Nancy's done an excellent job cornering resources, online and digital resources for all staff members.
Nancy and Tommy, both their primary role now is instructional technology facilitation, not technician.
Okay.
We could use
As
more.
Still a work in
is Sam
progress,
Phillips.
though. We've got some room to improve.
One of my questions is, how comfortable are you, Dr. Brigman, and you, Ellis, that this plan is being in place, and that if we do have an extended timeout because of snow or whatever, and we say, parents, we're gonna call this a day of instruction, and DPI, we're gonna call this a day of instruction, that it's truly a day of instruction? I wanna know how confident you are that our teachers can, I know they're working hard, that's not the issue. The issue is, are they trained, are our children trained to where, when we say this is a day of instruction, it really was a day of instruction?
I would put our students and our staff up against the other definition.
Yeah.
Is it sufficient?
Yeah.
No, we're always working to get better. Is it sufficient relative to where we are as a state? Yeah, I do feel good about what our kids are able to do and what our teachers are able to do.
I agree with Ellis, but I will also be a realist. Nothing can replace that in-class content.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the best instruction we can offer. We're gonna have gaps. We're gonna have instructional gaps on remote learning, and we've even seen it in some places with virtual learning, through AVA with special populations. This is still a new day in education. We're having to redefine and rebuild education, K-12 right now, running dual platforms. Remote is a piece of this platform we're trying to pull off. And so we have pockets of improvement. Nothing's perfect, and we're trying to address those pockets of, I can't say mediocrity, because everybody's working hard. Some are working harder than others. And it's just a new day, and I think sometimes staff members are a little leery of technology because the kids are well advanced, and we're trying to catch up with the kids in most cases. But I feel real good what Avery County has accomplished in a short amount of time since July 17th. So we came a long way in a short amount of time. But to answer your question, I'm excited about what's transpired right before my eyes, and just the enthusiasm among our teachers for the most part. Some are getting with it and really setting a good pace, and I think it's peer pressure. The other teachers are seeing this chemistry and what's transpiring in other classrooms, and they'll be pulled along. So hopefully over the next several months it'll become part of our fabric, but we still have some work to do.
And I think you can use these Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the Wednesdays have really helped for these snow days, or heaven forbid, if we were to have to close down. I think, you know, that model that we chose enabled us to practice those Wednesdays. Enabled us to practice and refine some things. And I'm very thankful for them and thankful that they did that for the teachers
I
and
did
for
talk,
the kids.
excuse me, Ms. Reeves, I did talk to a neighboring district, I won't name names, but talked to them about, they are in the process of creating their face-to-face piece. At the same time that they're doing their virtual, they've had tremendous engagement issues on the virtual piece, the virtual/remote piece. It's a universal issue that I think that we're all working to try to handle. There's not an established model as to what it looks like. I think it's what we've got put in place and what we've done thus far, I'd stand behind it. Do I wanna continue to look and see how our data tracks as we do our mid-year assessments at the end of the year? Yes. Would that impact how then we need to put some things in place over the course of summer? If life gets back to normal, whatever that means, do we need to beef up our summertime response when we can get back on a more normal schedule? Absolutely, 100% yes. Because I do think, as Dr. Brigman mentioned, there are gonna be gaps based on the fact that we're not seeing kids as much as we would like to.
Thank you.
I don't want us to linger here, but since Mr. Ward is here, Mr. Ward, what do you see the biggest struggle with kids as far as remote, on remote? Is it not turning in I mean, it looked like they were turning in assignments pretty good from the numbers that was given.
And Rick, I'm sorry, before you do that, would you mind step up here just so people can
Sorry, I mean, you know, you gave us percentage, it looked like that they were turning in the stuff pretty well.
And do you mean as far as remote, or are we talking Ava as well?
Not Ava, but
Okay,
the
just
remote, just the remote since that's.
Yeah.
Here's the attendance.
Oh,
She's
thank you.
referencing.
Yes. Well, basically what we do is the teachers do provide that assignment. If they do not, if the student does not complete it, they're marked absent, and they get a 0 for that assignment. So I talked to the leadership team as we talked about this and how's it going. I'm hearing very strong comments about how the majority of students are doing what we're asking them to do.
Good.
We do have that student that I go through a few that every Wednesday they're marked absent because they haven't turned in their work, but that's a very small percentage.
Good.
They're communicating really well with the teachers. As we were sitting through that leadership meeting, one of the teachers said, I've had three students email me while we're talking.
Good.
So there's been a lot of communication. Teachers are very accessible, I think, on those days. So we've had good success with it, we feel like. I didn't hear a single teacher say, this is awful, this isn't working. They all have very positive things.
Okay, I mean, everything I've heard has been very positive
Mhm.
as far as the kids, and the kids too. You know, that the assignments, you know, I know at first there was some struggles,
Mhm.
but, you know, now they're
As we
turning.
went along, it keeps getting a little bit better. So we're hitting around 90% of students doing what they're required to do on those days.
Okay,
That's probably better than if they were sitting in the classroom.
In some ways, I
I think they're glad to be at school.
yeah, yeah. So, well, I'm pleased that they're turning in things. You know,
our students have been amazing.
uh,
To go through what they've went through and for school to completely change from what they. One thing we've noticed is they're much quieter now. If you come to the high school, it's like you can hear
it
pins
is,
drop sort of
it
thing.
is, it's amazing. It's so quiet. You
But
need
the
to go.
on task and
That's really
they're
sad.
really, I think they appreciate education more after going through what they did, you know, in the spring. So the majority of them are doing what they are asked to do.
Well, I think the parent contacts have done exactly what the student services team mentioned, is that it's developed relationships that were not there in the past.
Oh,
That sort of
yes.
were pushed off to the side. And so, that's gotta have a positive effect, especially involving parents as much as that opportunity's been provided.
I think we have communicated with parents way more than we have in the past.
Yeah.
And had those conversations and, teachers reaching out, student services reaching out, and that's with Ava students as well. We're talking to them a lot. So many communication forms have went into place. We're utilizing email more than I think we ever have. It is hard to get all of them to answer their email at times, but that's something we're working on. How do we get better at that? But it's a lot of positives that come through this. You're correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes, thank you
Thank
both.
y'all.
Yes. We will now move on to important dates coming up. Dr. Brigham?
Yes, time is flying by. The end of the first 9 weeks is a few days away, October 19th. Remote Learning Day and Parent Conference Day is scheduled for October 29th. And don't forget Daylight Savings, the 1st of November. That will be at 12:01 a.m., Sunday, November 1st. Clocks will fall back. Veterans Day holiday will be November 11th, and Thanksgiving holidays are right around the corner with November 26th and 27th. And our next regular board meeting is scheduled for November 10th. That's the day before Veterans Day. And between now and then, we'll look at a special called work session to talk about student support services and some needs and priorities at our high school.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Brigham.
Yes.
Next, under 21st Century Systems, we just have 2 policies for first reading. We won't take action on tonight.
No, sir. The changes pertain to updates to the legal references within both of those policies. The policy content remains the same.
Okay, thank you. And next we have with us Rob Johnson, Boomerang Architects, to give us an update on the high school project. And Rob, welcome. We appreciate you being here.
Good evening. You all right, Bob?
Yes.
It's really great to be here, Dr. Brigham, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board. Chris, it's always good to see you. I've got, and Jeff, I've got 2 handouts. One's the usual progress in looking at critical path, and then the other one's actually called a site plan on the 200, what if it stays, so I wasn't sure the order of those, whether that's now or later, but I'm gonna keep one for myself here. They split like this. We'll hold off on copies of PowerPoint till later, but just in general, it's a little hard to characterize. I'd say the project is incrementally getting there. It's been sporadic at times. Sometimes it's really encouraging, other times it's going and blowing, but I'm sure y'all go by there all the time. It really is nice to see, the classroom wing's been there for some time now, but just to see that last gable end wall where all the commons are, to have 2 bookends. Now they're working obviously in the front middle to progress up and get that roof on. So I can go through this in a few details. As y'all know, the date we've been watching is to get everything on the roof, which contractor seems pretty confident that might even be Thanksgiving, but for sure confidently that first week of December, they're gonna hit that mark. We're not gonna be optimistic in any way. We're just gonna watch it day by day and week by week. And when it gets there, we'll witness it getting there. So that will be a huge milestone in the project. So just in general, you can see the completed items have been good. The front elevation is all there. It's been really nice to see evolve. The backside though, the dirt needs to be pulled out of there, so that right now, if you go to the back, where it's in the in-between, between 100 and the new building, the exterior brick is windowsill high, and they need to get the rest of that dirt out of there so they can get the scaffolding up to get that, and those are those 2 items there. The first one is the ones that are in black, yet they're working on, and then in the rear of the pod, and that the brick veneer is waiting on the grade to be pulled out of the way is the bottom line there. But the real heart of it is the masonry there on the second floor in the center. The classrooms in the back towards the old building, they're looking good, they're under roof, but right in the southern center end, masons are working to get the structural walls up, so then the rest of that roof can be completed. The last mobilization of the crane is, approaching us there October 26th week, and then that'll allow the steel to be flown, as they say, and then after that, the slabs get in. And so again, that milestone we're really watching is the first week of December. And then the other dates haven't changed. Again, this is again just concentrating on that new 2-story classroom building and admin building. We know that's the real critical piece to get out of the way. And then with respect to the, really appreciate Dr. Brigman and Jeff and Chris, we actually had John on the monitor there, went through various items. And, we had never, I've personally not done it. In the last week or so, I asked colleagues to drill down and get into that Procore, because it really was frustrating on us that if you looked at an individual day, the trades that they listed, they could be some really good numbers or really bad numbers. I think this is, working on this the last few days, what we've done is a new format that we've gone to more of a critical week and looked at those numbers. And then, so these are real now daily numbers at the bottom as far as totals. So it was hard to get a sense on what was meaningful and what was just, did we pick a good day or a bad day to look at? And so I feel good about it. The other thing that's helpful is we've gone to, as we said last time, meetings every 2 weeks. It has added to a little more accountability. The folks that have been there for a while, person that was with me last time, this Mike Love, I keep telling him he missed the last progress meeting. I call him all the time, Mike, I'm not feeling any love, where have you been? But he really does have a good spirit. He's got a lot of energy to him. He's got a lot of positive to him. It's not that the other folks are bad at their experience, but we've all been frustrated at the lack of get up and go. So we're more and more increasingly optimistic as you see the pieces incrementally get there, and we all know when we get a roof on overhead, we're a lot more confident free and clearing on the run. So I'll leave it at that.
Anybody have any questions for Ron? Didn't know Dr. Brigman was what 200 piece. Actually put together just a few one color drawing, which I think will help visualize. You want me to flip through that now?
Yes.
Okay. If y'all have your PowerPoint slides, the person was just putting a date on the. Sorry.
This is how it sits.
And just to get your bearings, the first one is just pre-construction
So we're
of
gonna tear this thing.
all the 7 pods, football field, the various
They would tear this thing
site elements there. And then the next page
too. Yeah.
is, probably doesn't mean too much to you, but it'll mean something when you get to the last one, because it's a lot more vivid. This is the construction document that had the student, the staff parking lot, and the buses were to the left-hand side, entering into the side of the building that they'd done. From what we hear, when the buses moved to the back, sounds like universally that's been a really good thing. So discovery through the construction process for that was good. The next slide is just a Google map I flipped in there night before last. It's got a little bit of age, but it was nice to see Google map. The construction site is there. You can see the new building taking shape. And as you know, the pods 100 and 200 that call for to be demolished, the healthy construction that's going on, 100 has to go, needs to go. 200 makes all the sense in the world to hit the pause button and reconsider that, because obviously it could be used for a variety of stuff, future programs. So this last drawing puts some color to, I think helps you visualize what the proposed plan is, that the drive, the drive has always been angled into that
Avery High School Road. The new drive is on this, which is more perpendicular to the road, but that area to the right is where the construction work is. So there's like the new drive, the old drive's still there, that old drive needs to go away. And then if you look, that blue zone, can you see the blue lines? That's the transition area that y'all like to say, yeah, let's leave 200, got some work to do, civil engineers. But the blue zone is where we need to figure out a little more precisely of how midstream in construction, you leave, if you, in other words, from here over can essentially remain the same. That's the green zone. This blue zone is a transition to figure out in more detail that the midstream in construction, they've already started grading for the new driveway. The old driveway's there, so I'm not sure if I'm looking at the face, I don't know if that's making sense. Again, sounds positive that 200 wants to stay. We're ready to work and figure out the details of leaving all the green. Fair to say we don't know precisely, but it'll be, you know, should be substantial dollars and time it would save by leaving it or pulling it out of the contract because it's.
Let the minutes reflect that there, Ms.
I have a question. If the buses stay entering from the back, will there be a need to find a secure way for the students to enter again, or will they come down like they were originally planned to go into the building?
No, as far as I understand, the plan is the buses are gonna stay to the back forevermore. They come in, what, to the cafeteria?
Yeah.
Has that not been?
Is that what I was thinking? That it was for a security reason. We were looking at security reasons that everyone entered, you know, through the front. I'm just asking is if there will need to be some need back there to change in order to accommodate that, for students to enter from the back. Something that you don't have right now, that you need.
Officer Winter, we talked a lot about that, and I spoke with him on the process. He's very comfortable with what we're doing right now. He did talk about when we go to this, going back to locking the gates so that part is closed during the school day. So it's mainly just the flow of that before, after school. And then if anyone comes during the day, they would still come through the front. And then we would lock the gates back to the back.
So all of your car traffic, students dropped off or driving, would enter through the original entrance at the beginning on the new building?
It, like drop off would be basically how we're doing it right now. So they would still come around the school, come through what was the staff parking lot entrance would be the drop off point for car riders. And that would be the pickup place as well. So it would stay very similar to the current plan.
Okay.
Basically, you'd have 3 entrance points in the morning. The front parking lot is where students will park. So they would enter the building there at the front office. You would have the car riders that would be dropped off, and they'd be dropped off where they presently are, which is right outside the 300 pod. Then you'd have the bus drop off, which would be outside of the 500 pod of the cafeteria.
Yeah.
So there'd be 3 stations every morning, and then as Ricky said, everything would shut down and we'd have 1 entrance, and that would be right there at the main office.
I guess what I'm thinking is, do you need something that looks like an entrance at the back when you drop kids off, like a covered walkway or something, and just dropping them off in a parking lot and letting them walk in?
The plan is that there would be a covered.
That's gonna be pretty
Okay.
obvious. You would come in and this would be the drop off, and then on 2 faces along there and there would be a canopy cover. So it'll be pretty obvious
Okay.
where the side entrance, if you want to call
What
it.
type of security will we have at the front door? Are we gonna have an officer with wands, or what are we gonna offer at that front door?
Basically there's 2 sets of doors that help us as well. So when you come through, during the beginning of the day, you can just open both of those and then have somebody stationed there as a duty place. During the school day, then that second set closes and you have to come through the office. So it would be kind of similar to Banner Oak, how Banner Oak does that. So we would have somebody, just as we currently do, there's someone stationed at the 3 entrances now at the beginning and at the end of school. So we would have people to do that.
Ricky, with the 200 pod staying, it would just stay with those rooms in there, and you would just use those rooms?
No, I think, and that's still needs to be determined, so.
We're gonna try to avoid a free-for-all for access to that space, and it needs to be determined by a neutral group of individuals, because everybody wants a piece of it. So, once this board determines, and that's one of the things that this board has to determine, I think we have to do that between now and December at the latest. Are we gonna keep it, or do we want it to go with the original plan of removal? That's one of the things we have to discuss. So I have a couple of recommendations after Mr. James does his presentation of our change orders. So I have a couple of recommendations for this board to consider as we go forward with that. But there still needs to be some factual data presented to us regarding the savings that Rob alluded to, the timing is gonna help us too. There's also a domino effect if the 200 pod stays. Do we have to do as extensive removal of that parking lot area as originally planned, 7-foot drop from the back to the front? So there's gonna be a chain reaction here in terms of time and cost savings that Mr. Johnson alluded to, and that's why I wanted us all to be on the same page and record that. It is gonna be a substantial savings and a time saver for this project.
Thank you.
But you would hope that, maybe I'm stepping on out of bounds here, but that decision would be made, whether it be $20 or $10 savings, that it sounds like it's a smart thing to do, just programmatically for space there.
If we tried to build that building today at $160 a square foot, the cost would be about $2.3 million to construct that space. So that's something we need to consider too, is our opportunity cost.
Thank you.
Rob, thank you so
Thank
much,
you
we
very much.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Always good to be here.
Thank you
I'll hang
so
out while Jeff goes through his stuff.
All right. Next we have Jeff, I'm sorry, let me get back online. The school change orders.
Is that you? Oh, you're going up there, okay. I'll let you. I'm gonna hold on to this stuff.
I just needed the visual. So, good evening.
Hi,
Jeff.
good evening.
So what we have before you tonight, I've got two change orders that have been presented to us that we need to take action on. One of them is a potential change order. It's we haven't officially put the change order together. We have the preliminary information, and we need to take action on it so that we can direct the architect and the contractor on what to do. Rob alluded to this in his presentation about the new entrance versus the old entrance and how we're going to get into that upper parking lot. One of the things that we're dealing with right now, and this is the site plan based on the original scope of work, and you'll see here this dotted line that runs right here in the top part of the screen. Here's the highway. That dotted line represents the present entrance into the bus parking lot. And you can see that what's on the plan where that driveway is the student parking lot. And so we're presently in the position, they are trying to finish the lower lot, or what we'll call the student parking lot. They need to come in and get the gravel, the binder down before we get too deep into winter. And one of the challenges that we have right now is we're using a portion of that parking lot as a driveway. So they've not been able to come in with their grading equipment and grade the remaining balance of that parking lot down. And so they need us off of that driveway so they can continue with their work. And so what they need us to do is to move ahead with the new driveway. So part of it's already there. Last summer, they put in, you've seen it, the gravel parking lot. So what we've got to do is we've got to finish that driveway. Now, unfortunately, all of that work should have been completed last summer.
but it wasn't for various reasons. So now we're at a point, we need to do a stopgap. We're not ready to come into this upper parking lot and begin grading it away. Because that's what, that's where Rob was talking about the blue area on that presentation he gave you. That blue area is an area of that parking lot that's going to have to be graded. And in the initial scope, that grading is about 7 feet of dirt that's going to have to come out of there to get the elevation of this driveway where it needs to be. Well, we're using that upper lot. That's the majority of where our students are parking right now. We can't go in there and start digging it out. So what we're about to do is create a temporary access that basically is going to be from about here to up here. So that we can stop using the old driveway and start using the temporary new one, so that the contractor can go ahead and finish his lower lot work, get all of that taken care of before winter gets here. They get that parking lot gravelled and binded and everything taken care of, and then we'll still have access to the upper lot. The buses will be able to get into the school, the parents, the students. Unfortunately, because it is not part of the original scope of the project, it's going to be a $13,000 cost. Because they're actually having to build that entrance up from what it originally was designed to be. Now, the thing is, once the board makes a final determination about the 200 pod, if the 200 pod, if you decide no, we're not going to continue down that path, we want to stick with the original plan, then this temporary entrance will have to be dug back out. Because again, the elevation of that parking lot is 7 feet higher than it should be, according to the current plan. So they'll have to come back in once the lower lot is finished, and we can vacate the upper lot. They'll have to dig it all back out and put it all back in. And that's why they say it's out of the original scope and it's going to cost more money than it was originally intended to cost. Now, if we continue down the path of keeping the 200 pod, and we don't have to grade that parking lot the way it was originally intended, the majority of this temporary drive will stay, and it will get credited, or the cost of it will get credited back to us at the time that we are negotiating the change for keeping the 200 pod. Does that make sense? So, so what I'm presenting to you tonight is a potential change order number 36, which is the temporary bus drive. It is a cost of $13,680.06. We need to move on this rather quickly so that they can begin getting us onto the new drive and off of the old drive. So,
How many days are we looking at them needing to complete this project?
to complete,
To complete the grading and the stuff for that area?
just for the temporary drive?
Yes.
Is that gonna set us back in?
No.
It's after the policies and stuff that we've already, and then there's the boomerang stuff that
Have
we
you
brought
heard?
in, and then there's change orders and that.
Yeah, we're not,
It kinda looks like this on the front. Okay.
Miss Kathy?
Yes.
They're not asking for additional time with this, they're just saying it's gonna cost them some money
Okay,
to put more dirt and gravel in there than originally intended.
okay, until we make that decision though, we could be wasting that, and how much are they gonna charge us to take it back out?
Well, we could, but then on the same token, if we don't get off of that original drive, they will not be able to finish that lower parking lot, and I'm afraid they would have the right to come back and say, we caused a delay, we need another 30 days because we were ready to move on that parking lot.
Okay, one quick question. Are there not other areas at the school that could be used for parking if it's a 2-week period, or if it's, how long
We are out of parking spaces.
Okay, that's what I needed to know.
Go back about
I mean, the parking lots are not full. If you go by there, you'll say, well, but every student that is driving has been issued or will be issued a parking pass, and Ricky and I talked about this last week.
and we're now kind of on the wait list.
We have basically three lots that we refer to. The one, in this lot that they're talking about, A, is completely full. That's seniors and staff. B is the tennis court. It is now completely full. It just recently has, we sold the last one. So now we're moving to the C, which is the one across the road at Avery Middle. So we, I think, sold about 4 or 5 in C.
Right. And there's
Okay, what
only-
about the tennis court and down at the field house?
Field house is an option. We talked about that. We have not utilized that yet. The tennis court is difficult because of the turn you have to make. If you're going in the one-way traffic, that's a very difficult turn.
I'm talking about the old tennis court.
It's full.
The old tennis court's full. That's
Okay,
B.
okay.
It is completely full.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so basically, we opened up lot C this week. There's 18 spaces in there, and he's already sold 4 of those spots. So we have about 14 parking spaces left. And then once we do that,
Then it would be in the
then
field house.
the field house is their final.
How many parking spots could we make at the field house?
I think there's around 20.
Yeah.
So that leaves us 38.
So we're, now, again, if you ever go by there, when you go through, the parking lots, even though we've sold every space, I mean, they're not there. You have attendance, you have students that are on mailing campus, but they still need a spot for when they come in for the one period that they're there, third or fourth. You've got athletes that are in and out. So, I mean, it's you could probably, I know the way ASU, when I was in school there, they had their lots. You weren't assigned a specific lot or a park space. You were just given a tag, and they would sell about 120% because they knew that it was fluid. And so, but there were days that I would pull into my lot and it was full, and so I'd have to go to one of the other lots. And I knew my tag would allow me to park in this one and this one and this one. I had priority in lot A, but if I had to go to B, I could and wouldn't get ticketed. And then some of my friends, they'd have the B tag, and so they'd have to park in B, and if it was full, then they could go to C and wouldn't be ticketed, but they couldn't come to my lot because I had the A lot. So, but, we've got some things going on, but right now we are running out of spaces. So, but basically, the bottom line with the temporary drive, either way, if we keep 200 or we remove 200, we've got to get off of the present drive onto the new one.
Can I add something to that? Pardon me for interrupting, Jeffrey. There is a private residence easement across through there too that connects to that, so we have to be cognizant of that as well, Mr. Green. So that would allow him to continue to have access to his home if we can get that.
So that's the first change order that's on the agenda.
Jeff, I don't want to belabor this at all because it's too long anyway, but now, how long does that temporary need to be there? I mean,
Well, now, the temporary drive will remain intact until the upper parking lot is complete. And what differs here is what we end up doing with the upper lot.
right.
But
I mean, it's not just we're not just doing a temporary thing for a week or two. I mean,
No,
it
no,
needs to be.
this will be our permanent entrance into the upper lot. The only thing is it
How we'll
gonna be
change
the final lay of that
Yeah.
drive?
Okay.
Or are they gonna have to come in and cut it back
Right.
and reinstall it because of the
Yeah.
elevation
If we
change?
keep the 200, it won't be temporary, it'll be the permanent.
Yeah.
It'll go down a little bit, but it won't be.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we keep the 200 pod, we'll get the majority of this cost back
Okay.
in the savings from not having to cut it down and dig it all back out. It will actually become the portion of the permanent drive that they will install once they finish the upper lot.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Right?
and Mr. Chairman, I think when the board votes on that, you should make the approval contingent upon the contractor's agreement that there will be a credit if the 200 pod is maintained.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that all parties are agreeing that they understand that that's the way that'll work.
Okay, thank you.
And Russ,
Do
any problem with that?
okay. Do you want to do these individually as we go? Or do we just?
That's your pleasure.
Okay, go ahead.
Your pleasure.
Go ahead.
You want to just move on?
Well, the only thing is, we need to, as Chris said, we need, there's a contingency on this particular one. So- So let's do, let's go, we can do the rest of them all together if there's nothing that we need to do, but, that was a
Yes.
good recommendation.
PCO 36.
Okay,
So,
ready.
could I have a motion to approve the change order, contingent upon the contractor agreeing that, that we will get, receive credit back if we do not demolish the 200 pod? Does that make sense?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Ruth.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jane. Any
Aye.
other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Good, very good point.
The second change order that we have on the agenda tonight, change order number 10. Again, this one is not anything to do with time, this is just in dollars. The total amount of this change order is $50,207.83. It encompasses 6 different issues that we've had to address on the project. Of those issues, 4 have already been completed. 2 are presently in place to be completed when the time comes. Ultimately, it breaks down to $9,600 in rerouting the existing sewer line and the drain or the rain leaders from pod 100. The original drawings that we had that identified where the sewer line came out of the 100 pod and where the guttering, with the downspouts, where they came out of the 100 pod were incorrect.
Think of that.
So until they unearthed it, they didn't realize, they didn't know. When they finally unearthed it, we had to do something. We had to move the drain lines. We had to reroute the sewer. And so it ended up costing $9,600 to do that. We had to, in the boiler room, we had to rework the louver system for the ventilation of the room. The initial design was to be a vertical louver that was beside or parallel to the door. The code wouldn't allow for that. Once the inspections department got in there, it wasn't going to work with the layout of the equipment in the room. So we had to change from a parallel to a perpendicular louver that ran across the top of the door. So that required a steel lintel. It required some additional masonry work, which will add $8,200 to the project. It was requested by Dr. Taylor at the beginning of the project for the contractor to add some additional French draining near the ticket booth going into the football stadium. That work has been completed. That was $16,790. And then the 2 things that are yet to be completed, one is the door frame that goes into the chiller room. Initially, the thought was we could keep the door frame as it is and just put new doors, hang new doors on. As they got in there and started working, the framing has deteriorated. There's a lot more rust and
It's
well,
just
just
50 years old.
deterioration.
It's just 50 years old.
Yeah, it's just 50 years old. So, you know, when Dr. Brigman and I sat down with Rob and Pierre and John Henning, you know, the discussion was, you know, we're gonna put a new set of doors on an old frame that's rusted and rotting out. Let's just, you know, spend the $3,200 and put in a new frame with the new doors as well.
It has to be custom manufactured.
Yeah, yeah, it's custom steel door, steel frame. And then the last one is, we're talking about security. What we'd like to do is put about $8,000 into the project to add the proxy doors so that we can take our ID badges and swipe to unlock the door rather than having to issue master keys or sub-master keys. And they're about $1,000 a door, so we have 8 doors.
that have been identified, exterior doors around the property that we'd like to add the proxy system to. So, and we'd much rather the conduit be installed inside the wall while they've got the walls open than for us to come back later and add raceways and put it on there. So, those are the 6 items, that the change order encompasses, $50-some thousand. And we just ask that, you approve it so that we can.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
How come we have to pay to replace the louver? That's not something we chose, that should have been a builder's. They should have known that it was not up to code.
We did ask that question repeatedly, and ultimately, it comes down to, it's the material that was required, and I'm trying to remember the exact.
But if it's the material that was required and they can get it now, they could have got it then.
Well, it's in the context of it was, as existing condition, so it's a first time purchase, it's not like you had to purchase it to get it, so it functions properly.
But wouldn't you think that a contractor or somebody that's in there that's looking at this would know that this ain't gonna fit in this?
No, that's
But it's not an issue that it wouldn't fit, it wasn't allowed.
Right?
It was
was
going to
not
go
code.
in, and the inspector came in and said, I will not pass that.
I know what Kathy's asking is, we wouldn't have known that. That's why we hired them, cause we hope they
Right.
would.
I don't
Yeah.
care to pay if something's their fault or if we actually make a change, but that was, to me, that's like buying the wrong thing and taking it home.
Chris, what do you,
Well, and I don't think so the particular, was this a contractor's choice of what to put in? So it is in the standard contract that if the building inspector comes behind and requires something that they won't pass, that changes to the plans that are initiated by the building inspector are something you've got to pay for. And like Rob says, the theory behind it is, had it been caught originally, you would have paid for it then. So you're
Right.
paying for it now.
So,
that's-
okay.
yeah.
it's the same price as the one we took out then?
No, it cost more than the one we took out, but we were credited back the cost of the
Okay,
one we took
That's
out.
what
that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
okay.
Good question.
Any other questions for Jeff, Rob, or Chris, or Dan? All right. We already approved the one. Could I have a motion for approval of the remaining change orders as presented?
Also moved.
Thank you, Pat. Second?
Is that all of them?
No, that's with
No,
the
just
exception of
number
number 9.
Okay.
So that was just number 10.
Yeah, that was number 10.
Oh, okay, right.
That was just number 10.
Okay.
So, okay, sorry. I'll second that. If we're just approving number 10 right now?
Yeah, number 10.
We're not,
Yes.
okay.
Okay. Thank you, Jane. Any other discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
I'll address number 9 here. Number 9 includes a topic
Thank
that's
you, Jeff.
been a subject of multiple conversations since my arrival here as your superintendent. It's specifically pertaining to change order number 9, and the summary of that change order is basically a change order number 9 requests 155 additional days added to the contract time relating to the soil nailing, which is 77 days, weather delays, which includes 34 days, COVID-19 related days, which consists of 7, sewer rerouting, which consists of 14 days, roof leaders routing, which is 3 days, new beam, which is 12 days, and temporary emergency egress at pod 100, including 8 additional days. New contract completion dates per change order number 9, phase 2A, new building, January 31st, 2021, targeted. Phase 2B is new student parking lot, February 10th, 2021, and then this contract substantial completion is targeted for May 13th, 2021. And I think Stephanie's made copies of this summary that I'm reading. Could you pass those out?
Yes, sir.
Before I sign our recommendations. My recommendations to this board is comprised of a couple of actions. The first action is table the construction change order number 9 until November 10th, 2020 board meeting to allow the administration and legal counsel time to review supporting documentation regarding the days cited. Recommended action number 2, request the following information from the project architect and or contractor prior to the November 10th, 2020 board meeting for board consideration prior to approving this change order. First, does the project architect, Boomerang Design, and or its subcontractors have any current, anticipated, or possible claims for contractual additional services, including services for extended contract management related to change order number 9 or any other construction issues? The next section, does the contractor anticipate any further possible weather-related days, and can they be avoided through critical path adjustments? C, the board needs a cost and time estimate, not plans and specifications, of the net project costs, additions or deductions, and construction time savings associated with keeping the 200 pod. The estimate should include several things: A, construction cost savings; B, additional construction costs; C, additional A&E fees, and any savings on construction administration related to keeping the 200 pod, and D, any time savings on construction days. The next section, the superintendent, after consulting with the chair and vice chair, I'm requesting authorization to approve additional A&E funds necessary for Boomerang to develop the estimate by November 10th for presentation to the board. We need confirmation from Boomerang that development of plans and specifications to keep the 200 pod will not delay construction as long as the board and county commissioners approve the change by the end of December 2020. And finally, Branch Builds needs to develop a new critical path schedule showing dates of actual project completing on phase 2A and 2B. And those are my recommendations regarding change order number 9, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Okay.
I'm glad to answer any questions.
Any questions
No,
for Dr. Brickman?
I think we go with those recommendations.
Okay.
What do you all think? We don't have enough information at this point
No.
to.
Thank you, Dr. Brickman.
Thank you.
So I would recommend, those timelines work for you? Okay. I would recommend that you, vote to table, change order number 9, and then in a separate vote, approve all of the other recommendations from the superintendent.
Oh,
I think
okay.
those two different motions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
And all the other recommendations can be a single vote.
Oh, okay, thank you. As Chris stated, could I have a motion to, table, construction change order number 9?
I make a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Pat. Any other discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And then can I have a motion to approve the remainder of the, construction change orders?
Her name is
The
recommendation.
recommendation, his recommendation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Recommended action number 2 from the
Oh,
superintendent.
yes, thank you, Jane.
I second
Second.
that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
And that does include giving him authority to approve any additional A&E funds necessary to develop the estimate.
Okay, yes, thank you, Jane. Very good. Okay. We're good. All right. We're good.
Any more change orders? Did we go through them all?
Yeah, so it's just the two
Okay.
in that one.
Okay. I saw 9, 10, and 17, 34, and
Let's
36.
see.
Did we do all the change orders, Jeff? Did we do all the change orders?
They were all included within those change
Yeah,
orders.
okay.
were
that one
cited
big
with.
10 that had 6 in it.
Okay,
It's confusing because there's a change order request,
okay,
and then those requests are independently numbered.
gotcha.
And then
Thank
they'll be
you.
grouped into final change orders.
Thank
So,
you.
yes, so Ken covered a lot of those
the ones I was
contingency.
looking at,
Yeah.
okay, cause I have a 34, a 36, and,
And
okay,
those numbers were in here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, thank you.
Next, capital outlay and maintenance updates. Jeff, you're up again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for being here.
Okay, just as a point of information, prior to capital outlay, I just received an email from Pierre. We have a meeting tomorrow to talk about heating controls, making sure that we're all on the same page as we get ready to enter into the winter season. But he informed me that, Rob had mentioned this in his presentation, excavating behind the new building, between the new building and the 100 pods, so they could be working on the brick. That's where the sewer line presently comes out of the 100 pod, and they're concerned that as they're excavating that, we're gonna unearth the present sewer line, so there may be a need to install a temporary fix so that we don't shut down the 100 and 200 pod. So just to make you aware, we're gonna be reviewing some of that information tomorrow, and as it
Dig
becomes.
small holes. Dig small short holes to
Small
find
short
out.
holes. So, I'll keep you informed if anything comes of that, but like I said, he just has emailed me, and I just, while I had him here, just wanted to make a point of information, let you know where we're going. Capital outlay project, I wanted to provide you, let me get my notes, got too many papers. This is the form that I had given you a few weeks, or several meetings ago, showing you the tentative schedule for capital outlay. And as we did previously, projects that have been completed have been stricken through. And I'll just have to go off the memory because I can't find my little cheat sheet that I wrote down. But 45 projects total on our capital outlay budget this year. 24 have been completed. 8 of them are continual projects, so they would never technically be listed as completed, as they're ongoing projects, copiers, roof maintenance, asbestos, fire extinguishers, just things that are in the budget that are just continual. There are 4 projects that we're presently working on, and that leaves us with 9 that we have yet to work. One of them being the replacement of the storage tanks for diesel and gas. Those aren't scheduled to happen until next summer. So as we go through, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those 9 projects are things that occur on this campus. Fixing the red building. We started working on it. They've pulled off of it to do other things. Working on the exhaust fan in the washroom, refinishing the washroom floor, and then working on the side building in the basement storage areas. Those are items that the guys are just like, well, when we have time, we'll work on it. It's our house. If we don't have, the schools take precedence, so they'll work on those items as they can. And then you look through the July projects. The rest of the July projects have been completed. The August projects, we still have the standing water issue at Newland, but the contractor showed up and has started working, digging out the area that needs to be dug out so that they can seal off where the leak is coming into the elevator corridor there at Newland. So that project's underway. The intercom bell system at Newland, that project is underway. And we just signed off on everything to install the AC at the tech services, or those individual, basically the same units that were put in at Avery Middle. We're gonna put those units in at tech services. So they'll actually have both heating and air in the tech services area. So those projects, all the August projects are either completed or underway. The September projects are completed. As I said, then the next big project on the list is the storage tanks. We can't do that until next summer. So we'll have everything ready to go there. We still have some items that need to be scheduled. The additional heating in the mezzanine area at Van Rail, we are still negotiating with the electrician on when they can get in there to do that work. We have a couple of schools that have money for pre-K playground equipment. Megan is working on trying to determine what equipment they want so that we can get it ordered. Ordering the mulch for the playgrounds, we'll get the mulch in here so that before spring or during, before we get back outside. We had the inspection a few weeks ago, and there was sufficient mulch in the fall zones presently, but he did say that as winter, when we come out of winter, we would need to go back and make sure that the 6 inches of mulch was around all of the swings and slides and monkey bars and everything that's considered the fall zone. And that's the special mulch that we have to get out of Statesville. The repair the cracks in the D zone, we're still trying to find a company that would be willing to come up to the mountains and work on the track where the cracks are in that D zone area. So that's where we are with our capital projects. I feel very good about where we are. The majority have been completed. And then to go back to the maintenance request summary that we were doing prior year, I went into the system today and just tried to pull some numbers out of it to give you an idea of where we stand, where we've been. Since the system was implemented back last spring, we've had a total of 884 maintenance requests that have been logged. And that was, we actually started this in 1st of March of 2019. So 884 total work orders. When we closed the school year on June 30th, we had 9 open work orders. So they had cleared everything except for 9. Since July 1st, or since that June 30th date, we've logged 168 new requests. And today, there's only 51 of those that are remaining open. So since July 1st, they've closed 117 work orders. So of the 168 that were sent in, 117 of them have been closed. So there's 51 work orders that are out there remaining today. So, and if I go pull that, it's probably different now. Someone's probably already put in a request since this afternoon, but that gives you an idea of where they stand as far as the request system, the work orders that are coming in, the work orders that are being completed, how they're being assigned out, and so.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
Why is there such a discrepancy in the number of work orders different people handle? I mean, it goes all the way from 339 down to 65 for one.
Yeah. Mike handles the majority of the ones that really aren't assignable to one of the men at one of the schools. So anything that's just a general,
He's our floater, basically.
yeah, I need a set of keys. Can someone hang a blind? There's a lot of different things that's not specific to a trade. So like Sparky, or Michael Sparks, y'all know Sparky. He's primarily the electrician, so anything that deals with electricity, he would get assigned that regardless of the building. Then also, if it was a work order from the high school, then he would be the primary person that would get it unless one of the other guys, it was their specialty. So, Heath is the locksmith, so he would get assigned everything that deals with keys or locks or those systems. So a lot of the work orders do go, Mike just holds on to them and will not reassign them to one of the other guys. He takes care of it as the supervisor. But then also, I didn't put this out there, there's a big discrepancy in the number of work orders that come in by the schools. I mean, you would think the high school would have the majority, But out of, the 884 work orders, if my memory serves me right, 95 of them are the high school in total. So, and if Sparky is the one, bless you, if Sparky's the one that's assigned to the high school specifically, if, you know, out of 900 work orders, only 10% of them come from the high school, he's inherently gonna have fewer than the other ones. Avery Middle has, you know, over 300 of those work orders.
I'm not there anymore, so.
I knew that was coming, Ruth.
You were hanging those lines, weren't you?
But I did notice that today, Ms. Edwards, when I went in, was looking, it was surprising to me how there was the difference in the number of work orders coming in from different schools. And, but that would be one reason, that, you know, you could see fewer, work orders going to a particular maintenance man. It's just simply because that school that he's assigned to permanently, or I guess on paper, there's fewer work orders coming in from that school.
So they don't go to another school?
They will. Mike will, like I said, I said Sparky was the electrician. Sparky's the plumber. So if it's a specific issue about plumbing, then Sparky will go, he'll go to Banner Elk, he'll go to Cross North. You know, his primary assignment is the high school, and for preventative maintenance and general maintenance, but his specialty is plumbing, so he would be assigned outside of the high school. But, you know, if it's a major issue, now if it's just a toilet that's running, if it's a sink that's dripping, any of the guys would take care of that for their designated school. But now, Mike does maintain the lion's share of those work orders, and because they're just some of the work orders that come in truly aren't maintenance requests as much as it is just asking information, and they use that as the process to get information to the maintenance department. So when it's something like that, you know, if it's a question, can I get a set of keys? Mike's not going to assign that to Heath. He's just going to talk to the principal and say, well, tell me what's going on. And then they'll either figure out, oh, well, we don't need that. The principal's got what he needs and they close it. Or Mike says, yeah, I'll go get it. And he takes care of it, and then he closes it and doesn't go through the process of formally assigning it to a worker. Does that make sense?
Right. So did they mainly work individually or in teams, or?
It depends on the day and the project. They do spend a lot of time working in pairs, but that doesn't mean that they always work in pairs. That they will go out and work individually. And that is one thing that I had always suggested to Mike, was to make sure that the guys, you know, if it's a one-man job, it's a one-man job, go do it. You know, but now there are times that you do need two men for safety purposes. But
I've just noticed that for several months, and I kept wondering how it was.
yeah, I'll pull those numbers of how it's broken out by the school.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
And I'll shoot that to you in an email, just you can see how it does. It is fluid, and it is, you'd think the high school would have the most, being the biggest school, but they don't. Then you got Riverside, I mean, theirs was like less than 10. So they had very few.
And I'll brag about our maintenance crew. They work. There's very few coffee breaks, and keep in mind at the beginning of this year, and rightfully so, we had a huge request for them to focus intensely on air conditioning units, and they installed all the air conditioning at the middle school. They assisted the subcontractor on the wiring installation, so we pulled all of our maintenance crew for over a month. Jeffrey, I don't remember the exact number of days, about 40 days, and they basically dropped the standard work order process to make sure all of our schools had air conditioning underway by the time the kids arrived to school. So those numbers are reflective of that downtime too, so they worked hard.
And I think one of the things that, just, again, you know, I'll brag on these guys because you know, I worked with him for years. A large part of what happens in maintenance is never seen. Because a large part of maintenance is in the ceiling, inside the walls, in the crawl space. So, you know, there'll be, you know, there's times that, you know, there'll be 3 trucks at the high school working on something, and Ricky probably never sees them because they're in the catwalk the entire time.
Or in the boiler room.
You know, or the boiler room, or down, you know, they're in the elevator shaft at Newland. So there's a lot of times that things are going on and you just won't see them, simply because it's in areas, and that's where the bulk of maintenance occurs, is outside of the visible area of the room.
Any other questions for Jeff? On maintenance, Jeff Whiteley? Okay. We'll move on to our budget resolution. We'll need to take action on this.
So, in your packet, everyone should have received a copy. Should have received it last week via email, and then hopefully tonight everybody got your bound copy that's printed of our 2021 budget resolution. Just some highlights. Total budget this year, $40,120,336. But again, just as it was last year, make sure I got the correct number. $13,921,000 of that $40 million is construction cost. All right, and again, you know, according to the LGC, even though we're not the ones that are paying for the invoices, because lottery money has been used to facilitate funding that, we are obligated to show the revenue and the expenses on our books, even though it never runs through us. I'm still kind of trying to figure that out, but, so it has elevated our budget from where it typically is, which is around 25 million. So if we take that number out, then for comparative purposes, the total budget this year would be $27,569,154, closer to our typical 25 million. Now, we've crossed the 25 million point a couple of years ago, so eventually we'll probably creep up to the 30 million in a few years. But ultimately, the budget tonight that is in front of you, as I said, $27.5 million comparatively to last year. It's about $663,000 less than last year's budget. That's where we stood last year. We have seen a reduction in enrollment. So we did see a reduction in state funds from what we had last year, because we have fewer students. Now, one of the caveats of COVID is our enrollment projection will be held harmless. We were budgeted on 1,920 children. We only have about 1860?
I would have to look back, it's in that neighborhood.
Around 1860, which is more than 2% less. In a normal year, if that occurs, the state will reduce your funding. But because of COVID, they are going to hold everybody harmless this year with their budgets. So thankfully, I know Ms. Baumgartner, you asked a couple meetings ago, where were we? And I said, well, we were waiting on some of those final adjustments. Thankfully, the final adjustments won't come this year. So we're pretty solid with what our state budget will be.
So Jeff, like, this doesn't have the COVID money that's coming.
This does have some of the COVID money in it, not all of it, because it's not all been allotted and
Okay.
given out.
Okay.
The governor's money that we all talked about last board meeting, we know how much we're going to get, but the state has yet to get all of the I's dotted and T's crossed, so that will be an amendment at a later date.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, you know, I've given you the summary charts that will show you, you know, let's see, 69% of our budget is based at the school level. 79% of our budget is based in personnel. Of that 79%, 65 of it is instructional. So you can see the lion's share of our budget is people and classrooms. All right? You can go through and look at the different pie charts. You know, I've tried to give it to you so that you have information. As you're out and about in the community and people ask you questions, you can say, oh yeah, no, we don't put a lot of money in the central office compared to, you know, it's only about, 2%. If you're talking about salaries and so you can go through, you can look at the pie chart, you can break those things out. I've given it to you. Then also comparatively, the next page will show you the budget this year compared to last year's budget. Okay? So just to give you a quick breakdown, as I said, our state budget was reduced $231,000 from last year because we have fewer students projected. We were at 1986 the year prior, we're at 1920 this year in our projection. So, 1946 down to 1920. So we lost 26 kids in the formula. 26 kids worked out to be about $230,000. We do have more money in local. Remember we went through the local piece. We went to commissioners, asked for more money specifically for pre-K. And the county was generous. So we have about $100,000. We have the 70 that they gave us plus some additional revenue from other sources. Child nutrition, we're looking at about a $290,000 budget reduction in child nutrition based on what we see that's going to happen with COVID and fewer days of school. Fewer days of school means less reimbursement. Less reimbursement means less money. So we're having to figure out how to make sure that we have our child nutrition budget in line with the revenue. But you can go through the chart. I've given you the information to where you can see what was it last year, what is it this year, breaking it down in different categories. And hopefully that is for your edification so that you can answer the community as they look to you as the leaders of the district. And then from there on, it's just all the budget lines. 6,994 separate budget lines of numbers and numbers and numbers and numbers. Okay? Specific questions about where we are with our budget?
Once the board approves that page with the graphs would be great for our website for our stakeholders to see too.
Consider it done.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jeff,
Jeff.
Thank you.
and your staff. If there's no questions or comments, could I have a motion for approval of the 2021 budget resolutions?
So moved.
Thank you, Jane. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Kathy. Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Jeff?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks.
Board will meet in closed session for the purpose of discussing information that is privileged, confidential, or not a public record. So could I have a motion to move to closed session?
I'll make a motion to move to closed.
Thank you, Kathy. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ruth. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Well, and thank you all. Yes, thank you for joining online. We thank you for being here for the return. We appreciate you being here.
Looks like you're about to
Look forward to seeing you next month.
Yeah.